This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today on Monkey Life, chimp toddler Bryan finally makes friends with bad boy Seamus. But later, they fall out again. And it's moving day for the Gibbons as the park arranges an ape wife swap.
We're going to give them the best option that we can by offering her another male and by offering him a lady who won't be quite so nasty to him.
Monkey World is home to the largest collection of golden-cheeked gibbons outside Asia. They're an endangered species, so breeding them in captivity is vitally important. In an effort to get the gibbons to mate, the park has decided to change some of their domestic arrangements. That's going to mean moving some gibbons, and here's how they're going to do it. Now pay attention. Raphael's moving in with Alex and Jake's going over to Zoe. Because of this, they've got to shift Pungyo, Peanut and Tian to a new enclosure. In the wild, gibbons swing at speeds of up to 35 miles an hour. It's never easy moving one gibbon, never mind 7.
Bit of a big day with the gibbon section today. We're doing a bit of a swap round, so a lot going on. A lot of timings to be calculated and animals to be moved and all got to be done in the right order. So it's, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all go really smoothly.
First up, it's Raphael and Zoe. They've lived together for some time, but their relationship is just not going anywhere.
Gibbons do pair for life, but we have to remember that our gibbons have had very unnatural, disturbed backgrounds. We don't know why Zoe has lived with Raphael for 2 years and suddenly rejected him. But it was a very energetic and violent rejection. She did not want him at all. And if we were to keep them together, we would have had very badly injured gibbons. So we're going to give them the best option that we can by offering her another male and by offering him a lady who won't be quite so nasty to him.
And it just so happens that Jake and Alex haven't been getting along too well either.
Jake and Alex don't so much have issues, but they're not a great pair. Alex is a little bit dogged by Jake, to be honest with you. He's a little bit like a love-sick puppy following around, and I think she quite likes some space. I actually think that Raphael might be a slightly better match. He's got a slightly more playful side to him, and Alex does like a little bit of a game. So hopefully that'll bring out her playful nature too.
So the park has come up with a practical solution, a wife swap.
We're trying to do it as much as possible without any sedation, which can be tricky. Obviously, trying to get a gibbon to walk into a box when he doesn't know what's happening to him is a little bit much to ask, but so far it's going really well. It's plan, absolute perfect. We couldn't have asked for any better.
Raphael gets this complex moving day off to a flying start by just walking into his transport crate. But will all the movers prove to be as accommodating?
Open. Open that. Are you ready?
Worldwide, all 9 species of gibbons are being forced to the brink of extinction. Hopefully the park's efforts will result in some new gibbon babies.
How well they go and how quickly their pair bond, how long's a piece of string? We can't tell. Babies, yeah, of course, we want them, but just give them time. We'll just give them time. She'll get pregnant when she's ready.
With one couple moved, there's one couple to go. But there's a problem. For this last pair to move, Peanut and her family has to move first. Over in the orangutan nursery, Aris is being trained to be as relaxed around transport boxes as Gibbon Raphael. It'll be less stressful for him if he learns to walk into his travel box by himself without the need for anaesthetic.
Aris! Great!
While one keeper tempts Aris into the box with treats, a second stays by the sliding door.
I'm going to be on the slide, obviously, so he's got to be used that someone's always going to be on the slide because eventually we will shut it. And Kate's just going to encourage him in with nice little treats, really, just to encourage him in, make it really, really exciting place to be in that box.
Good boy, Aris. He's coming out in and out of the box quite happily, but we're now starting to work on duration. Good boy. So once he's been in there for a longer period of time, I'll click him for that and then give him a reward.
At 4 years old, Aris is outgrowing the nursery, and the team are preparing him for a move to the larger enclosure.
Aris can be a little bit boisterous with the youngsters sometimes, and he's, you know, he's growing up a little bit now, he's getting a bit older, so maybe it's time to be with the older guys.
For Aris, this is simply a great game, and it's played in stages.
Taking it very, very slowly, and then eventually we'll get to the stage when we can shut it completely, and we'll click and reward him, and then we'll open it straight away, and then we'll extend that period of time. It's just to make him feel comfortable that he's not going to be stuck in that box forever.
Good boy, Aris.
It's gone really, really well. He's done absolutely brilliantly today. We've managed to shut the slide quite a lot, and he's not reacted or negatively anyway, so it's gone really, really well.
Aris will be moving in a couple of weeks' time, when everybody hopes he will happily go in and out of the box.
Good boy, Aris. Good boy.
Over in the chimp nursery, newest recruit Bryan is flourishing under the watchful eye of foster mum Sally. And he seems to have found a new way of getting around the enclosure. When Bryan first arrived, bad boy Seamus was jealous of the new arrival. And foster mum Sally often had to intervene. But now the pair are friends, and thanks to Seamus's mischievous influence, Bryan is becoming more adventurous. Just like humans, chimpanzee toddlers develop and grow stronger by playing and exploring, and Seamus is helping Bryan do just that. But best of all, could it be that Bryan is actually helping Seamus learn to play nicely? Later, Bryan learns some harsh lessons about chimp etiquette. Back with the Gibbon wife swap, Raphael's moving in with Alex, and Jake's joining Zoe. But their new home is currently occupied by Peanut and her family, so there are yet more Gibbons to move.
We're going to bring Peanut, Pungyo and Tien down here to the bottom Gibbon house, where they will live as a family unit. They're growing in every way, numbers as well as size. Tien's growing up hugely now, and he's going to have this amazing space out here with trees and everything to run about in. So we're hoping that the family will live down here quite happily, and we'll sort everybody else out with their new accommodation too.
Raphael's move was textbook, but Peanut hasn't been trained to walk into a transport crate. Peanut's baby Tien is only a year old, and it's still natural for him to cling to his mum. To reduce his stress, they will move together, but Peanut is going to have to be sedated.
Sedation can be dangerous. Any anaesthetic is a worry and a risk. So if we can avoid it, we avoid it. But if we can't, we have to go for it.
For the animal manager Jeremy, it's not going to be easy. He needs to wait until Tian moves a safe distance away from his mum.
I'm not going to try and dart Mum when she's holding a baby. So, you know, there's lots of this. They will be difficult. Gibbons are always a nightmare.
Meanwhile, the park's vet Femke prepares the dart.
They're quite difficult to dart. They move around a lot, and then the moment you hold your breath, they just move up and you just miss.
The thing with any darting is you've got to be patient. You know, if you miss 2 or 3 times or have a dart failure, you've got to live with it. Just, if you start getting wound up about it, then you have to walk away and come back tomorrow.
Wendy waits nervously. But Jeremy manages to sedate Peanut. And then it's a quick trip to get Mum and baby over to the other side of the park and into their new home. Peanut is gently placed into the bedroom, with Tien firmly attached. The team now has to wait for her to come round from her anaesthetic. It's a tense time waiting for any primate to wake up, but especially with these apes that are so rare and endangered. Coming up, Jake is proof that no 2 Gibbons ever get in a box the same way.
Jake, come here.
No.
And toddler Bryan gets a lesson in chimp manners. At Monkey World in Dorset, the atmosphere is tense in the new Gibbon house. Golden-cheeked gibbons are an endangered primate species. The staff are waiting anxiously for Peanut to come round from her anaesthetic. She's been sedated to move her and her family across the park to a much larger enclosure. Her baby, Tien, clings on tightly to her.
Peanut has been darted, Chen obviously not. He's still awake, he's even drinking from her now. I have to wait again to give her the reversal, because one of the 2 ingredients we gave her should wear off first, because it will make her hallucinate if she still has that in her and she wakes up a little bit. So we wait another 10 minutes and then reverse the 1 agent, and then she'll wake up slowly and Chen hopefully will be fine. But she's breathing steady and she looks all right. She's in a recovery position now.
Satisfied that enough time has passed, Femke can give Peanut the anaesthetic reversal injection. Now, all they can do is wait. Three Gibbons down, 3 to go. Zoe and Jake should be a simple prospect. They've both been well trained, so they will not need to be anaesthetised.
They both walk into the box really, really well and give us enough time to shut the slide. We haven't as yet shut the slides on them while they're in the box. We didn't want to scare them or put them off. We've actually only had a very short period of time to do this training with them, so we didn't want any negative at all. So today will be the first day that that slide is shut behind them.
First up, Zoe.
Perfectly walked into the box for us. No stress, no worries. Walked into the box, got rewarded for it, and now we're going to take her to her new home. Without any stress, no anaesthetic. Ideal, absolutely perfect. Right. Such a good girl in there, aren't you? Such a good girl, Zoe. Where are you going?
Ready?
Yep. Good girl, Zoe. Good girl. Straight in and shut the slide.
Didn't seem very worried, did you?
No.
Good job. Go well?
Perfect. Couldn't have planned it any better. Out of a box, up a chute, into the bedroom.
And now for Jake. This should be simple.
Come on then.
Not fully in. Not fully in. No. No.
Get your foot in, I can see you. Come on.
No.
Or not.
Jake, come here. Come here.
Come on, Jake.
No. No.
But after a few words of encouragement and the lure of some tasty grapes, Jake gives in.
No. Got him.
Good job. Good job.
Boy, Jake. Well done, Holly.
With Jake in the box, it's a quick trip over to the other side of the park. And before he knows it, he's well on his way to joining new mate Zoe.
You ready?
He's on his way.
Here we go.
Everybody hopes that Zoe and Jake will make a perfect couple. But before they're introduced, they'll be given a few days to get used to their new surroundings. Coming up, baby Tien is still clinging to his mother. Will she wake up safely from the anaesthetic? This afternoon, the chimp nursery have been given one of their favourite treats. Fruit-flavoured ice lollies. And they're about to test the newfound friendship between Bryan and Seamus. Some of the ices have been placed in the pond, so the chimps have to work harder at getting them. But they don't like water. This is no problem for clever Seamus. There's no way new recruit Bryan will brave the water. But Sally is willing to chance a wet leg in order to get hold of one. At last, Bryan decides to grab a lolly for himself. They've all gone. Upset, he heads over to Sally. But Sally firmly lets him know it's her lolly and it's staying that way. Plan B. Bryan sidles up to his new buddy, Seamus. But Seamus lets Bryan know exactly how things are. Chimps can be extremely persistent. It's time for Plan C. Lulu. No chance. And her nip comes as a nasty shock. For the youngsters, the nursery is usually all about playtime, but it also helps develop social skills. And it seems Bryan hasn't quite got the idea that you don't take things that don't belong to you. But finally, Sally shows the soft side he was hoping for. Now she's on her second ice lolly, she doesn't mind sharing a bit with Bryan. Unlike Seamus, who's not about to share his monster stash with anybody. At last, Bryan manages to get an ice to himself. And it looks like he's now grasped chimp lesson number 1. If you've got something worth keeping, then stay out of everyone's way. Back with golden-cheeked Gibbon Peanut, her anaesthetic reversal injection should be working.
Peanut. How long since she's had the reversal?
4 minutes.
At last, Peanut starts to come round.
Hello, sweetie. Good morning.
Hey, Peanutter. Not the horrid people around. Come and say hello to me. You've still got Tien. Yes,
And Wendy is relieved.
Come on, sweetheart. Come on. Every time you put an animal under sedation, they need to be able to hear their keepers or someone they trust, their voice. Just like you would come down for an anaesthetic, you want to hear a voice telling you everything's all right and everything's fine and you've done well and you're still there, and you want to be able to recognise that voice. So I'm a known factor. I'm not like Jeremy or the vet who does the darting. I'm not the nasty one, as it were. I'm the good guy, or at least I'm supposed to be the good guy. So hopefully she'll forgive me. Hello, sweet pea. You gonna come and say hello? Come and say hello. Too scary. Tien's happy because Mum's sitting up. I just wanted to come over to me just to say hello. There's my sweetheart. Oh, you are still very wobbly, aren't you? Still very wobbly. Hello, darling. Hello, sweetheart.
Now Mum and Baby are safely settled in, it's time for Dad, Peng Yo, to rejoin his family. This family's new enclosure has more space and a natural tree-filled environment in which Tien can grow up. Peng Yo is straight out of his travel box as if nothing has happened and is soon exploring the new space.
The family are back together and I couldn't be more delighted, to be honest with you. Peng Yo doesn't like being away from Peanut. Peanut doesn't like being away from Peng Yo. Baby's all sorted out. Tien's got Mum and Dad back again. I'm happy, they're happy. Relax. Really good to see them back together.
Next time, join us for a Monkey Life special. It's been 5 years in the planning and an exciting new project for park director Alison. Monkey World's first foreign sanctuary for endangered primates is finally a reality as the team breaks ground on their Gibbon Rescue Centre in Vietnam.
Perhaps this is something that actually we could do, that Monkey World and the Vietnamese government could grab hold of and actually do something significant for an endangered species before it faces extinction.
We track through dense jungle trying to find wild golden-cheeked gibbons. But will the team see more than just a glimpse of these elusive creatures? And from gibbons in the wild to those at Monkey World, Peanut and her family experience life in the treetops for the very first time in their new home. This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today's programme is a Monkey Life special. In Vietnam. Monkey World is embarking on an exciting new project, their first foreign sanctuary for endangered primates, a new Gibbon rescue centre, protecting these rare animals for the future.
Monkey World was a rescue centre. It's taken 20 years to build up. We're trying to put a rescue centre here in just a few months.
We trek through dense jungle in a search for golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild.
Ow, ow, it's the gibbons.
But will the team catch more than just a glimpse of these elusive creatures? And at Monkey World, Peanut and her family experience life in the treetops for the very first time in their new home. In the past 20 years, Monkey World has rescued and rehabilitated 185 apes and monkeys from all corners of the globe. But their latest project means that many rescued primates can remain in their native country. "6,000 miles away in Vietnam. The Monkey World team is breaking ground on their biggest international project to date. A rescue centre for golden-cheeked gibbons. Vietnam is home to some of the rarest wildlife in the world. Poverty in rural communities has led to endangered wildlife being the target of the illegal poaching and smuggling trades. Without help, golden-cheeked gibbons could face extinction.
We knew that there was a big demand and trade in them illegally on the black market, and yet nobody knew anything about them in the wild, except for most conservationists were saying, actually, there are other species that are more critical. Well, it was a very sort of grand statement to make when you don't actually know anything about the golden cheek gibbon. So I guess at that point in time, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided, well, perhaps this is something that actually we could do, that Monkey World Ping Tung Rescue Center and the Vietnamese government could grab hold of and actually do something significant for an endangered species before it faces extinction.
5 years in the planning, the new sanctuary will be run by Monkey World and Taiwan's Ping Tung Rescue Center. Joining forces with the Vietnamese, the three nations will build the first official rescue center of its kind in this country.
So I'm very pleased to be here today to break ground for this rescue center, but really this is only a small part of the overall project where we are trying to aim to create the highest level of scientific work for conservation, for welfare, and to get the gibbons back out into the forest. So thank you very much and all the best for a successful future. Thank you.
The centre will be built in Vietnam's largest and most diverse conservation zone, Cat Tien National Park. Covering almost 80,000 hectares, Cat Tien has been called the Amazon of Asia. At the entrance to the park is Tien Island, which will house the rescue centre.
Much bigger area than we had ever dreamed of or even considered, and that's how the whole process got started. We came across to the island and did an initial survey and scout through, and it was perfect. There are primary trees growing here. It's mostly secondary forest, but it's just beautiful. It's an island, it's isolated, yet it's right alongside of the national park, so very easy to bring utilities and labor in to look after a rescue center. And with careful design and management, it wouldn't have to have a big impact upon the island. And it was all agreed. Everybody was unanimous, including the government. Everybody was very happy for an endangered primate rescue center to be set up on Tien Island at Cat Tien National Park.
Monkey World's operations director, Jez Hermer, has joined Alison in Vietnam, and they're surveying the site.
Just simply amazing. In 24 hours, our road has been cleared effectively, and it's all been done by hand. So they've just thrown manpower at this and done the deed, which is really nice to see. Actually, is looking around, they've left quite a few of the big trees that might have sort of encroached upon what is going to be our central road. So they are being quite sensitive to what's out here and not just mowing everything down. And now we can get a better look heading into the middle of the island and where the primate center is going to be.
The rescue centre will be home to 20 gibbons at a time. They will be rehabilitated and, where possible, returned to the wild, making way for more gibbons that need help. It'll be a continuous process.
We've got to start recruiting staff, training staff, we've got to start getting equipment in and just preparing the whole thing, ready for the first animals to move in here sometime next year. If you think about Monkey World as a rescue centre, it's taken 20 years to build up. We're trying to put a rescue centre here in just a few months. There's a whole raft of stuff that's got to be organised, and so it's going to take quite a bit of focus from us back in the UK to make sure this is on track.
Later at Monkey World, one gibbon family gets to experience life as it should be, high up in the treetops. It's 4 a.m. in Vietnam. The team are heading deep into the jungle. They're hoping to catch a glimpse of golden cheek gibbons in their natural habitat. Monitoring the wild population of the gibbons will help everyone understand more about the needs of the rescued primates when they're brought to the new centre, and when they're re-released back into the wild. But in order to find the gibbons, they need to hear them call. It's a waiting game.
They normally call an hour after dawn, so we've still got some time. But the thing is, you know that they're really close, you know they're within 500 metres of you. But without that trigger of a call, and they're so silent otherwise.
Monkey world keeper Marina has been studying Cat Tien's wild golden-cheeked gibbons for the last 4 years. The group she's hoping to show Alison is known as How Family.
It's been about an hour since sunup. We haven't heard him. We heard a neighbouring group, but not this group. So I think we're going to head back towards the centre and we'll take it slowly and see if we can eventually catch up with How Family.
Very little is known about the golden-cheeked gibbons, as they're incredibly difficult to follow through the dense jungle they occupy. Poaching has also made them extremely shy of people.
The seasons make a huge difference here, and it's coming into dry season now, so every step is a crunch and a crack and a break of a branch or leaf litter. And there's just it's really difficult to move quietly through the forest right now.
At last, the team hear familiar calls.
They called for 12 minutes, which is their average time, which wasn't enough to get to them. But they're probably within 100 to 50 metres of here, hopefully at a fruit tree. So just waiting for some kind of sign to find out exactly where they are.
Marina has been living in Vietnam for the last 2.5 years. She's endured the jungle for up to 2 weeks at a time, and her findings are going to be crucial for the new rescue centre. Alison wants to ensure the environment and conditions they build at the centre are perfect for the rehabilitation of the rescued gibbons.
Marina's just done an absolutely fantastic job for 2 years studying the ecology and biology of the golden-cheeked gibbons. Most people say, well, what does that really mean? The ecology means how does the animal impact and interact with its environment. So that basically covers everything about your life history. Marina's work in Cat Tien National Park has been unparalleled. It will be probably the definitive work on golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild. Indeed, many people have failed where Marina has succeeded.
Mr. Bing is a forest ranger and tracker. He's been working with Marina since she arrived in Vietnam. Unfortunately, the gibbons are not Marina's study group.
I'm gutted.
Marina may be disappointed she didn't get to see her gibbons, but catching a glimpse of these shy creatures is fantastic for the team.
It is really difficult. It's secondary forest, which means there's a lot of low-level shrubbery, so you can't go easily. Like in primary forest, the ground's all clear and you can just fly. And other gibbon species, some of them call for 40 minutes, for an hour and a half, and they call 2-3 times per day. But golden-cheeked gibbons here call within the hour after dawn, sometimes just like 4 minutes, on average 12. And if there's a young male in the group, that's when it can go longer, up to 40 minutes. And it's just once per day, that's it. The only other time you'll hear a peep out of them if there's a boundary battle or they're scared, and that's just females alarm calling. So they don't give you much chance to find them.
Coming up, the team discover snares and traps.
This is less than 72 hours, definitely.
It's a chilling reminder that illegal poaching still exists in the national park. And, even worse, they see the full extent of the damage a snare can cause. In Vietnam, the Monkey World team are back in the forest of Cat Tien National Park. Marina wants to find How Family, one of her golden-cheeked gibbon study groups. Before Marina's 4-year-long research into Cat Tienne's golden-cheeked gibbons, very little was known about them. But in order to stand the best chance of releasing them back to the wild, it's vital to know as much as possible. The team aren't having much luck. Spotting the reticent gibbons in this large forest is proving extremely difficult. But they do spot another rare primate. Langurs are classified as critically endangered. They too fall victim to the illegal wildlife and smuggling trades, so the new rescue centre will also offer sanctuary to them. The Vietnamese government and forest rangers known as the Kim Lam work hard to preserve its wildlife. But despite international treaties and domestic laws, the trade continues. Further into their trek, the team finds snares and traps that have been laid just hours ago.
This is less than 72 hours, definitely. Look at that.
Look, this is...
as fresh as anything.
It's brand new. This is totally legal. There's Mr. Bing and his Kim Lam, his rangers, patrol the forest, trying to keep the people out. But it's quite a small area. There's a lot of poor people surrounding Cat Tienne, and they just keep coming in.
They have found laid branches and leaves. This is the snare line. The animal is forced to find an opening, which leads straight to the trap.
So if you were an animal and you came along here, that's what's going to happen to you. And it cuts in, and you turn your leg off.
But what generally happens is it doesn't kill them. So it will just leave them to sit there for days, weeks on end sometimes, just dying a slow, lingering death, which is a great shame.
When I was here 2 years ago, I never saw any snare lines, because this is very close to the headquarters. It's right next to the headquarters of the Kim Lam. Yeah, it's just saying lots of people are liking it at the moment, and more are coming in. And this was the best protected area within the park, so if hunters are here, it means the other areas maybe are getting worse.
The national park is now having to employ more forest rangers to keep the poachers out.
Now, people have been hunting like this around here for years and years, but, you know, the forest is getting smaller, the concentration of hunting is getting much tighter, the effect upon the natural environment is getting much more severe, and it's an issue of education, essentially. The local hunters don't necessarily need to come in here anymore and hunt these small mammals. It's not essential for their survival, but they do come in as part of their cultural heritage, and until somebody can get the educational points across that actually this is damaging the forest irreparably, you know, this is never going to stop.
Sadly, in just one day, the team find many different traps that they need to dismantle. And later, they come face to face with the reality of what happens to an animal that's been caught by a snare. It's a Duke Langur, one of the rarest primates in the world.
And, you know, you see these little signs all over his body of what his previous life was. And now that's tragically over.
Over the last 7 years, Monkey World has rehabilitated 8 golden-cheeked gibbons at the park in England. It was the only suitable place for them to go. One family, Pungyo, Peanut and their young son Tien, are about to experience something new. Attempting to make life as natural as possible for their resident gibbons, the team has created a new 2-acre enclosure, including a large wooded area. This will enable the gibbons to behave as they would in the wild. Dad Pungyo is first on the scene. But Mum Peanut has her youngster to think of, so she's more cautious. But not for long. The lure of the forest is just too tempting. It's a great moment for the primate care staff.
It's the most wonderful thing to see these gibbons in the trees. They've been stolen from the wild as infants, taken into the illegal pet trade, and they're using their trees like they've never been away. Just really goes to show that the natural instinct is there. They know how to handle those trees. It's so often said that you can't put these animals back into a natural environment because they won't know how to do it. Peanut and Pungyo know exactly what trees are for. They know how to use them. They're there. They're using a forest.
Tien is now 11 months old and a confident young gibbon. This is his first tree climbing experience and he clearly loves it. Gibbons move at great speeds and can jump around 40 feet. In the wild, they spend their lives living high in the tree canopy, and it seems that's just what this family are going to do. Peanut and Pungyo were stolen from the forests of Vietnam. Their son, Tien, is actually named after Tien Island, and one day it's hoped they can return to where they belong. Back in Vietnam, in Cat Tien's headquarters, Alison and Marina are about to see firsthand the damage a snare can cause to an animal. This is a black-shanked Duke Langer, one of the most endangered primates in the world. He's lost his leg and would have endured a slow and painful death. Just a few hours ago, the team were lucky enough to see a wild troop on their trek through the jungle.
You try not to get too emotional about these things and just deal with the practicalities. But when you start looking at him, it's just really difficult because you see signs of his previous life. He's got a cut on his face and a torn ear. He's sort of coming up to adulthood, coming to be a mature male. He was probably challenging the adult male in the group to become the dominant male. And, you know, you see these little signs all over his body of what his previous life was. And now that's tragically over.
Marina is taking hair samples and the vet is gathering information. Hopefully they can learn something about this species from this incredibly sad situation. Cat Tien is the most protected national park in Vietnam, and law enforcement is taken very seriously. At the ranger station, the poachers of the Duke Langer have been caught and are in handcuffs. They will certainly receive a prison sentence for this crime.
Once word gets out that the authorities are going to seize the animals and prosecute the smugglers, the trade will stop because nobody will want to spend the money on trying to steal langurs or gibbons from the wild, especially if they know they're going to get thrown in jail for it.
Next time. In Vietnam, the team find gibbons living as pets, but will they be able to come to the new rescue centre?
Would he be happy to consider her future if she were able to go back to the forest in the next couple of years, if that were possible? Would he consider that for her?
At Monkey World, young orangutan Kai discovers when it comes to food, being cute means nothing. And in Paddy's chimp group, Susie gives birth to her second baby.
She's looking after the baby, she's holding the baby. We've actually seen it suckle now, so things are looking very positive for everything to go well.
This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today on Monkey Life. In Paddy's chimp group, there's the patter of tiny chimp feet. It's a free-for-all amongst the bachelor boys as they fail, once again, to learn to share. And in Vietnam, the team begin work at their new Gibbon rescue centre. Primates have already started to arrive for rehabilitation back into the wild.
So at the moment we know about 20 different foods that they eat in the forest, so we can slowly get better and better and better. So when they do go back into the forest, they're going to survive.
Monkey World is primarily a rescue centre, so it doesn't usually let its chimpanzees breed. But as babies bring family groups closer together, they do occasionally allow it. It's always exciting when there's news of a pregnancy. And 8.5 months later, there's even better news. Chimpanzee Susie has given birth in Paddy's group.
Came in first thing this morning, and when we arrived, we found Susie had given birth overnight, probably very soon just before we arrived. Luckily, everything seems to have gone very well. She's looking after the baby, she's holding the baby. We've actually seen it suckle now, so things are looking very positive for everything to go well.
6 years ago, Susie gave birth to her daughter, Eddie. So far, Eddie is the only chimp at the park to be successfully reared in a family group. Everybody hopes that the chimps will look after this new arrival just as well.
Well, because Susie had given birth before and looked after Eddie so well, we were quite hopeful that this would be the case again. She actually gave birth overnight, so that meant she was with the group when it happened. So obviously everything had gone well. The whole group were behaving really well towards Susie and the baby, so there was no need to separate them off. And hopefully, you know, that means she would become a member of the group quicker.
Top priority for the baby is getting fed, and Susie has settled into breastfeeding perfectly. But the nest that she has built is hiding the answer to that all-important question.
We're not too sure of the sex of the baby yet. We've had a couple of glimpses. We think it might be a boy, but it's a bit too early to tell. We'll have to wait until Susie's a bit happier for us to have a better look.
Dad, Paddy, has shown an interest in the new baby, and now he's giving Susie some space by keeping the rest of his troop out of her way. And the staff are on hand to give the new mum some TLC, not forgetting a little bit for Susie's first child, Eddie, just to make sure she doesn't get jealous of her new brother or sister.
We're just in the tunnel between the pavilions, inside and outside enclosures. Just been giving Susie and Eddie a bit of a drink. Susie's pretty tired, she keeps nodding off. She's also quite thirsty, so we're giving her lots of juice drinks just to try and keep her happy. We've also turned the heating up a bit. She was shivering a bit just after she gave birth. So basically we're just keeping her happy and calm, making sure Eddie's contented by giving her the occasional banana, so she doesn't get pestered too much. But other than that, I think she's doing really well.
With all the support in place that Susie and her baby need, it's fingers crossed that the latest addition to Paddy's group will flourish. Monkey World has rescued primates from all corners of the globe and brought them back to the park here in Dorset. But their latest project means that many rescued primates can remain in their native country. "6,000 miles away in southern Vietnam. Construction is underway on Monkey World's exciting new project, an ape rescue centre specifically for gibbons. It'll be based in 56 hectares of jungle on an island at the entrance of Cat Tien National Park. The pressure's on to complete the centre because new residents have already arrived. 4 golden-cheeked gibbons are in holding cages. For these endangered primates to have a hope of returning to the wild, they'll need to be rehabilitated. And this means learning how to behave like wild gibbons. This is the job of Monkey World's gibbon expert, Marina.
These gibbons were pets in Bin Hoa City, which is very close to Saigon. I think this is the mother and father. and they've been pets for over 15 years, so a long time. And I think they're a breeding pair, and they've had youngsters. And as far as we're aware, this female and the little one, who's only around 2, they're the offspring of this pair.
Full health checks were done on the Gibbons, and DNA samples show that they were stolen from this region. This makes them perfect candidates for rehabilitation and eventual re-release back into the jungle here. Step 1 is to get these domesticated primates used to eating the sort of food they would find in the wild.
This is a leaf that I know they eat in the forest. This forest is actually dominated by this tree, and they eat the leaf, the fruit, the flower. So and he's eating it. God, good on you. And the other thing is jackfruit. This is actually domesticated jackfruit, but this is also found in the forest. So if they can start to eat this, there's a chance that they might make it back into the forest one day. So over the months, we'll slowly introduce more and more forest fruits, so we can slowly get better and better and better. So when they do go back into the forest, they're going to survive.
The next step will be to move these gibbons into a semi-wild environment.
And that's where the serious rehabilitation comes alive, where they're going to learn how to move in trees, and they're going to get lots of forest foods. But more importantly, the human contact is going to be reduced. We have to back off fully. He can't wander in the forest and see a human and want to go and ask for food. So it's very, very important at that stage that we back off and they become wild gibbons who don't see a human and think food or think attention or think anything. They see a human and ignore them.
Numbers of golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild are at an all-time low. Poverty in rural areas has led to endangered wildlife being illegally caught and sold. And on the black market, these animals are worth thousands of pounds. Without help, rare species, such as the golden-cheeked gibbon, face extinction. Later, the team continues its mission to find more gibbons to join the new rescue centre.
Would he be happy to consider her future if she were able to go back to the forest? Would he consider that for her?
And at Monkey World, young orangutans, Kai and Gordon, rough and tumble. But it's all part of growing up. The primates at Monkey World eat several times a day, with some snacks in between. On this morning's menu are figs. Boss man Paddy's got a sweet tooth, so he comes running when he gets wind of the snacks. But with so many figs to go round, even youngster Eddie has managed to get her mitts on some. There's a peaceful air in the troop as they settle down to enjoy their snack. And they show that there are many different ways to eat a fig. Some are delicate and careful, and others are just plain messy. The park encourages the primates to forage for food as they would in the wild. The figs are ideal for this as they're hard to find in the grass. Some will always win the prize, but for those who find it a little more difficult, it could lead to squabbles. In the enclosure next door, the bachelor boys have noticed that their neighbours are happily enjoying a treat, and they aren't. It's not long before figs start falling into their enclosure too, but the bachelors aren't quite as calm and peaceful as Paddy's group. As always, when it comes to food, Charlie can't contain his excitement. But he'd better watch out. High-ranking Jester is on the food prowl. Having to forage for the figs is confusing Charlie, giving Jester all the opportunity he needs. And once they've scored a fig, the bachelor boys aren't going to lose it to anyone. There's definitely enough fruit to go round, but Charlie's luck seems out today, as Jester hits the jackpot with more than his fair share. And Jester is not about to share, however much the other chimps want to. Could a classic bachelor boy squabble be brewing? Charlie is staying out of it and has given up on the figs, finding some leftovers from lunch instead. He settles on a platform on his own to enjoy the food. while down below, all hell breaks loose amongst the rest of the group over the figs. Over in Paddy's group, it's a very different story. They're clearly far more peaceful than the boisterous bachelors as they happily search for any figs they may have missed. Coming up, the team are shocked at some of the conditions in which they discover captive gibbons.
The cages are terrible and appalling, and the conditions with all of the noise and the workmen are just very upsetting for what is a canopy, quiet forest species.
And at the park, could cheeky orangutan Gordon actually be becoming a role model for Kai? In Vietnam, the Monkey World team is on a mission to find captive golden-cheeked gibbons that could join their new rescue centre. In the wild, gibbons swing freely through the forest canopy. But these critically endangered primates are often stolen from their native habitat and end up living in very different environments.
We've been getting reports from tourists, British tourists who come and visit Vietnam and are traveling around, and then they send us reports. So I had actually just gotten an email right before we came out on this trip from somebody saying that they had come on holiday and they had seen 3 gibbons outside a restaurant in Ho Chi Minh from London. Yeah, the tourists were from London. So we always follow up on all of the reports and all of the sightings.
The team's aim is to rescue gibbons that have been stolen from the wild and to rehabilitate them at the new Gibbon Rescue Centre. So first, they must make sure that these gibbons originate from this region.
So we'll see if we can get some hair samples. We'll test them, make sure that indeed they are southern Vietnamese gibbons, and that's the first step to getting them back to the rescue centre.
The team will have to work with the authorities to get the gibbons confiscated and taken to the new rescue centre. The Vietnamese government enforces strict laws to protect its wildlife, but previously, even when primates were confiscated, there was nowhere to put them. Until now.
Certainly all of the gibbons in southern Vietnam that people report to us will be going after now, because we have a brand new rescue centre on Tien Island who will be able to take these individuals, rehabilitate them, and hopefully put them back to the forest, because it's very likely that all 3 of these were poached from Cat Tien National Park.
In the wild, these primates live in a quiet forest environment, but these cages are on display in a restaurant which is under refurbishment, so the conditions are completely unsuitable for them.
But having said that, their eyes are clear. They're actually in pretty good nick. They're not too skinny. Their coats are good. They look overall pretty healthy to me. You're okay, mister. You're okay.
This is a good sign, which makes the gibbons ideal candidates for a new life at the rescue centre. Later on, the team discover a gibbon living as a pet, and they are shocked to find out how long she's been there.
Bao nhiêu năm ở đấy?
Nó là 24-25 năm rồi.
24 years, 21 năm.
Back at Monkey World, the afternoon is getting off to a tasty start. The orangutans are getting fresh browse. These are tree branches with the leaves still on them. Xiao Kuai is a real food lover, and she's quick off the mark, closely followed by thieving Gordon. Xiao Kuai's 2-year-old son, Kai, is right behind her. He's naturally curious and popular in the group, keeping his mum company while she eats her greens. It's Xiao Kuai's role to teach her infant how to behave, but in her haste to get through as much of the browse in as little time as possible, it looks like she's forgotten the lessons on how to share. Orangutans are the slowest movers of the great apes. But Kai doesn't seem to like this label. He is constantly exploring the enclosure. And just now, whilst his mum is preoccupied with not sharing her browse, Kai heads over to his pal Gordon in the hope that he might let him try a bit. But Gordon's not in the sharing mood either. Kai, however, is nothing if not tenacious. His mum has found some more browse, so he sneaks up to her. And with this much to go around, even she can't quibble over sharing a few leaves. In Vietnam, the Monkey World team continues its search to find captive gibbons stolen from the wild. Their aim is to bring them to the new rescue centre in Cat Tien National Park to teach them how to live in the wild again. They have reports of up to 10 wild-caught gibbons in the nearby area. One of these is female golden-cheeked gibbon Gwyn Lee. She was poached from the wild as a baby by this man and kept as a pet by his family.
Ăn đi, ăn ngon là ăn đi. Đây, Gwyn Lee. Gwyn Lee.
How long has the gibbon been inside the cage now?
Bao nhiêu năm ở đây? Bao nhiêu năm con vẫn ở đây?
Nó là 24, 25 năm rồi.
24 years, 24 năm.
24, 25 năm rồi.
It would be illegal if this family took the gibbon from the wild today, but over 20 years ago, the laws here were very different.
This gentleman was a soldier, and during that time he hunted and killed this gibbon's mother and has kept her as a pet since she was a baby, and she's lived with his family. So whether or not we could ever force the issue to say, you know, she must come to a centre or not, or whether that would even be the appropriate thing to do politically in the local area for this individual and to create bad feelings towards the whole project, it's hard to say. We'll have to consider that.
This pet gibbon is seen as part of the family. They even sing along with her.
Cái nữa. Nó đen xong rồi bây giờ nó...
It will be very difficult for the family to lose their beloved pet, but Alison really wants to improve the gibbon's future.
Would he like to see Gwyn Lee go back to the forest someday?
Someday, yeah.
He has talked about her future and whether or not it would be nice for her ever to go back to the forest, and he thinks it would be possible. So that's interesting that he's even considered that option, because she's been here for a long time with the family. She's part of the family, and you can see how they interact with her. She knows them quite well. But you can see that she is quite old. I mean, the feet are quite arthritic and the joints are sort of bent. And it isn't because they're broken, they're just old. And you can sort of see it in her face that she's old. Her teeth are perfect, but then, of course, she's being fed soft fruits and things, so she's in good condition, but older. Obviously, what would be best for her is to go back to the island and to be rehabilitated to whatever degree we think we could. But, you know, if in the end that's not possible, then maybe we can at least come back here and try and help them out to make her conditions better in this situation, because she is an old dear.
It's been a busy week for the team in Vietnam. But with the new Gibbon Rescue Centre project well underway, there's an even busier year to come. Back at Monkey World in Dorset, it's the end of the day, and in the orangutan enclosure, Xiao Kuai is taking a well-earned rest. Her son, Kai, was the park's first orangutan to be successfully raised by his mum, and he's settled in perfectly around the other adult orangutans. Like all boys, Kai loves nothing better than swinging about and playing. And his partner in crime, Gordon, feels the same way. These two are best buddies, and wherever you see Gordon, you'll find Kai. Just a few baby steps behind. In the wild, young orangs are more sociable than their elders and play in groups when they meet. They wrestle and chase each other and enjoy practicing acrobatic feats in the treetops. They learn their behaviour from their parents. When he was young, Gordon lacked a father figure until family man Twan arrived at the park. He may be as strong as several men, but Twan is a big softie, and the two of them hit it off. Just like Gordon, Kai also needs a role model, and it looks like Gordon's just the orang for the job. Gordon and Kai will probably not live with each other forever, as large males don't like each other's company. It's amazing to think that one day they will both look like Twan. Gordon's cheeks, known as flanges, are starting to develop, but orangs grow at a very slow rate, so hopefully there'll be many more years of play to come until Gordon and Kai have to be separated. And right now, life for these two doesn't get much better. Next time, it's a day of introductions as alpha male Hananya is reunited with an old flame. Will he and Patricia patch up their differences?
Hananya!
And from old flames to a new relationship. Zoe the Gibbon meets Jake for the first time.
You never know what's going to happen with Gibbon introductions. We'll just see how this one goes.
And there's exciting news as the park begins work on its biggest rescue ever. But a tough decision has to be made.
Now I'm confronted with the fact that there are 100 monkeys sitting in fairly barren lab cages, and I have to pick out 35.
This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today on Monkey Life, it's a day of introductions as alpha male Hananya is reunited with an old flame. Will he and Patricia patch up their differences? It's a tense time for the team as Zoe the Gibbon meets her new partner Jake for the first time.
You never know what's going to happen with Gibbon introductions. We'll just see how this one goes.
And the park begins working on its biggest rescue ever. And it's decision time for Alison.
I'm confronted with the fact that there are 100 monkeys sitting in fairly barren lab cages, and I have to pick out 35.
Monkey World is home to 4 capuchin monkeys. They are Tom, TJ, Gizmo, and Terry. In the wild, capuchins are native to South America, but these 4 primates were rescued from the British pet trade.
Good girl.
Many people keep exotic wild animals as pets without knowing enough about their needs, and current British law does not give the primates enough protection. They have been discovered in appalling conditions. Monkey World's 4 capuchins were all rescued from solitary confinement, and for them, life today couldn't be more different. They live happily together in a family group. But they're soon to be joined by more capuchins, a lot more, as the park prepare for their biggest rescue mission ever.
Last year, Jim and I were actually approached by a laboratory in Chile that was home to 100 capuchin monkeys. And we were asked basically if we could rehome all of them, which was quite a daunting task.
Previously, the park's largest rescue was of 19 stump-tailed macaques from a laboratory in Britain. The prospect of now rescuing 100 capuchin monkeys all at once from South America is a daunting challenge.
So I've got in touch with the laboratory last week. I told them that we would be moving ahead as soon as possible so that we could take on half of them, or up to 35, probably individuals, I guess, and then get back to them, let them know how we've done, and consider the future of the rest of them thereafter.
The capuchins have been used for contraceptive and other medical research, but with tests completed, they are now free to be retired.
It's a sensitive issue. The politics with laboratory animals are quite harsh and severe, and I believe that the lab has come under fire in Chile already, and they know that monkey world will not enter the realms of the politics involved on whether or not the monkeys should be there in the first place or not, but we're there to sort out the problem and to help the monkeys.
The park has a mammoth task ahead. They have to plan the move and build the new capuchins' homes, and nobody is sure what the monkeys' physical and mental condition will be like.
I suspect that some of these individuals will be quite traumatized and institutionalized in their behavior, and that's something we'll have to be very cautious about.
Later, there's a difficult decision ahead, as Alison has to choose who's coming first.
All of the little faces staring back at me are making the task very difficult indeed.
Monkey World provides a stable home for abused primates that have been rescued from around the world. The rehabilitation process differs for each animal, and for Chimp Patricia, it's taking quite a while. She lives in Hananya's troop of 18 and gets along with everyone apart from the boss himself. Hananya has been leader of the group for 3.5 years now and is respected by his females. They show their admiration for him through a variety of submissive gestures. But while the majority of the females pander to their boss, Patricia doesn't. Hananya finds her very attractive, but she's been playing hard to get. To ease the tension between them, they were separated.
The problem with her is she's got no idea of the social workings of being a chimpanzee. You know, she's obviously been on her own as a pet for a long, long time, and always had her own way. Well, she didn't get any comprehension of that you got to give to receive. You know, this whole thing, it's a bit of give and take, and the penny hasn't dropped as far as that's concerned yet.
Today, the two chimps are going to meet face to face once again. Patricia spots Hananya straight away as he makes his entrance. She heads up high. Hananya is entirely focused on Patricia, but she just doesn't know how to handle him. Animal manager Jeremy is concerned. All Hananya wants is her attention, but even though she likes him, Patricia doesn't understand how to show it, and he's just making her nervous. Hananya's frustration is starting to show, and all Patricia's screaming just serves to wind him up further.
Hananya!
The big male is still too daunting for Patricia, and she heads indoors.
There's no reason to give up yet, because this is the best place for her. We're going to persevere with this for at least a bit longer, because it is her best option. You know, when we think of all the other groups of chimps that we have in the park, you know, this really is where she ought to be. You know, we can only hope that at some stage she will get the idea that upsetting Hananya ain't a good plan. You know, and he's bigger than you and you're going to get a thumb.
Later, Jeremy checks on Patricia, and it seems her lack of interest in Hananya has pushed things too far.
He's bound to wound him up. You know, I don't blame him for thumping her, to be honest with you.
Monkey World is home to the largest collection of captive golden-cheeked gibbons outside of Asia. They are an endangered species, so breeding is vitally important. Gibbons pair bond for life, but for two couples, this wasn't the case. Raphael and Zoe, and Jake and Alex weren't getting along, so the park arranged an ape-wife swap. Today's a big day. Zoe is soon going to meet her new partner, Jake. But before this can happen, keeper Wendy needs to check on Alex. A couple of weeks ago, she met her new partner, Raphael. But things didn't go according to plan.
Gibbons cannot be left on their own and be mentally happy. They pair for life. That instinct, that need to pair bond is so, so strong. So we have to get somebody a partner. The only way of doing it is with these series of introductions. Unfortunately, my choice for her was not the right one.
During the meeting, there was a scuffle, and it was Alex who was on the receiving end.
These things are never predictable. They don't come with a booklet and tell you how to do these things. We went through our normal procedures with the introduction. Everything was looking good, everything was positive, until unfortunately the day we opened the slide up, he decided that he was felt under threat, and unfortunately he did a lot of damage to her arm. Gibbon canine teeth are very large and they're very dangerous. So one reason why we need to stay away from them. He literally, freak accident, managed to get both canines in the right place, and sadly he did so much damage that Alex has actually had her arm amputated.
The park's medical team did try to save Alex's arm, but the injury was too severe. It's now been a couple of weeks since the operation, and she seems to be coping well.
She was nursed fairly intensely for the first couple of days, but she is such a strong girl. She's done so immensely well. She's carried on. She's got to build up the strength in her arm. She's got just the one arm to swing on. She's got to get that strength up in that arm, but also to learn how to move her body, how to balance. How does she get around? But also I need to see whether or not she's capable. Do I need to make any changes to her enclosure? I haven't had to do that. She's just brilliant. She has progressed superbly well. It's a good idea just to give her some time on her own, let her settle down. We can assess her and watch her. She's quite happy at the minute. What we plan to do is move Raphael back down towards her. And if it was just a freak accident, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But they will let us know instantly. If I put him next to her for a day, I'll be able to tell. Is there any aggression? Is there lots of aggression? Right, away again. And we look for a new man.
Next stop for Wendy will be the meeting between Zoe and Jake. And it looks like love is in the air.
The best result we've ever had. Instant attraction to these two.
And chimpanzee Jimmy heads outside for the first time since his knee injury. Monkey World in Dorset is home to over 160 rescued primates, from beach photographers' props to lab chimps. Today, major planning has started on what will be Monkey World's biggest primate rescue mission.
I mean, these guys are used to tiny boxes, so, I mean, you know, dividing a 6x6 bedroom in two is, like, absolutely no problem. Yeah.
The park has agreed to rehome almost 100 capuchin monkeys, being retired from a research laboratory in Chile, South America. The plan is for them to arrive in stages and eventually live together in family groups. So now, Alison must decide which they want to take first.
And now I'm confronted with the fact that there are 100 monkeys sitting in fairly barren lab cages, and I have to pick out 35. And all of the little faces staring back at me are making the task very difficult indeed. My first gut instinct would be to say, okay, so if we're going to take 35, first of all, women and children first. Sinking ship, off they come. And of course, with the youngsters as well, the sooner you get them out of the lab, the less damage is done to them long term. So I think we're probably going to head for women and children first and see how we go with that.
The park is already home to 4 capuchins, rescued from the British pet trade. They live as a family group in a large house with an outside enclosure. But for the new arrivals, Operations Director Jez is overseeing the build of a new house and an extensive outdoor area.
For the first time in their lives, they're going to be able to actually come out of a solitary confinement situation into real natural trees, just really getting used to actually having that freedom, which they've never had. They're going to be able to forage for insects and just basically be primates for the first times in their lives. It's going to be fantastic.
The design and manufacture of the monkeys' transport boxes also has to be carefully considered for the 7,000-mile journey to Monkey World.
That's going to be stressful for a lot of them, so we need to make sure that we design the boxes extra special so that they feel as comfortable as possible. The one good thing about that is that they are used to small spaces.
The Capuchin's transport and arrival will be just the first of many new experiences for these primates.
When we get them here to the park, we'll try and start socializing them instantly. And, you know, we're never going to give them a wild existence back. And let's face it, these guys are going to be so messed up in their heads anyway that that wouldn't be appropriate for them going back to the wild. But what we can give them is companionship, a healthy life, better fitness, fresh air, and, you know, a nice, relaxing retirement. And for the most part, I expect these little capuchin monkeys will be over the moon to hear, feel, touch, play, groom, and hang out with their own kind. And once they get together, they won't want to be apart.
It's going to be a busy few weeks for Alison and the team as they prepare for these new arrivals.
So the ideal would be to get as many of these all together in one group.
Coming up, golden-cheeked Gibbon Zoe knows just how to charm her new man.
Zoe is such a tart at times, just making herself look as beautiful and as playful and as lovely as she possibly could.
Monkey World's primate care staff are experts in rehabilitating rescued chimps back into social groups. But their efforts with introducing Patricia into Hananya's group have not been going so well. Chimp life is a volatile one, and scuffles do break out regularly. At some point during their last meeting, frustration got the better of Hananya, and the big male bit Patricia. So vets Femke and John Lewis and the animal manager Jeremy have come to see if she's okay.
Will she show it to you? Or you, Jeremy?
Come here. Come here.
Jeremy tempts her over with some grapes so the team can get a closer look at the wound.
Come on, show me your neck. Show me your neck.
Let's have a look.
Come on, see your neck.
Shall I come with you?
Yeah, of course. Come here. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Come down here.
Have you seen any sort of problems with her moving her head, her neck, or whatever?
Not at all.
It looks quite nasty, but chimps are tough animals, and Jeremy is more concerned about Patricia's introduction into the group.
He's being a prat, but he's not nasty. He's not really bright enough for the role that he's got. To a point, you can sympathise with Hananya, because she actually loves him, and he loves her, and she'll let him sort of get so close, and then when he wants to get a bit closer, she plays hard to get. She's a flirt. He's bound to wound him up. You know, I don't blame him for thumping her, to be honest with you. No, I don't, because it's dreadful what she does to him. You know, she's all over it. She won't leave him alone. But then, oh, no, I don't want you now. Well, you can't do that to people. You shouldn't do that to people. So I'm really not surprised we've got this situation.
Park vet Femke has put Patricia on a course of antibiotics, and although it's an open wound, John seems happy with everything.
They're very good at healing, but, you know, occasionally one will go wrong. So, yes, you have to go through the appropriate steps. She's having a painkiller and something to reduce the irritation. I can't do any more.
The team will not give up on Patricia, and they hope that she will soon relax around Hananya and settle into his group. Another chimp on the recovery list is Jimmy. He's going outside for the first time since the care staff noticed a wound to his leg. It's taken 2 months of intensive hands-on treatment by the primate care staff to heal Jimmy's wound. If they weren't so dedicated, Jimmy could have lost his leg.
feel pretty delicate when people do that.
It's hoped a bit of fresh air and exercise will help the last stages of the healing process. Jimmy's lived with Paddy's chimp group for almost 20 years, but he was involved in a major dispute that resulted in the troop ousting him. So, for his own safety, he's moving next door to the bachelor pad. Jimmy has already met 5 of his rowdy new housemates, and today it's time for the next. He's meeting Spanish Charlie.
All the other introductions we've done inside, but because Spanish Charlie is a bit peculiar, he's a bit unique, he can be... I would rather do him outside, because he'll always, no matter what happens, when something abnormal happens, he'll always just sort of have a moment. It's the sort of thing it ought to be done in a large area rather than a small area, and then everybody can just leave him alone while he gets on with his displaying and all that sort of thing. He's a nutter.
Jimmy and Charlie lived together 10 years ago, and they were great friends, so it's hoped they'll pick up where they left off, as long as Charlie doesn't throw a wobbler.
Charlie's just proven me out to be a liar about doing all his displays and stuff, because it's not quite the display I thought he was going to do, but...
All seems calm, and a grooming session between the two is extremely positive. Despite Jeremy's concerns, the pair are getting along like old friends. Back with the Gibbons, it's now time for Zoe to meet her new man, Jake. The park's last Gibbon introduction didn't go well and resulted in Alex losing an arm. Zoe's past history with boys isn't too good either.
Zoe has had a divorce in the past. Raphael was not quite the man that she wanted in the end. She changed her mind, but that's a woman's prerogative. She wants more of a tough man, and Jake's that. But, you know, he's not going to stand for any nonsense from her either.
The pair have been housed closely together indoors for some time, and so far, the signs are good. But as with Raphael and Alex, it's only when they finally meet that the team can tell if they will get along. So Wendy's on tenterhooks as the pair are given access together outside. Neither Jake nor Zoe got on well with their previous partners, so nobody really knows what's going to happen. The initial signs look good, as Zoe immediately starts grooming her new man. And it looks like the two of them have hit it off.
You never know what's going to happen with Gibbon introductions, but I think that has got to be possibly the best result we've ever had. Instant attraction to these two. They have been alongside each other for a little while now. But Zoe is such a tart at times, just making herself look as beautiful and as playful and as lovely as she possibly could. I think she's written a textbook on Gibbon introductions, and Jake has lapped it up in doses, and he's quite happy because she's sitting out there grooming with him, playing with him. He gets everything he wants. A big outside enclosure, a brand spanking new house, and a new woman to go with it too.
Next time, tough nut chimp Seamus shows he can still play nicely with the youngsters. There's some growing up to be done as orangutan Aris graduates from the nursery and meets bruiser Gordon.
Oh, good boy. No, careful. Careful, that's good. We're good.
And keeper Mike brings the woolly monkey baby down to meet his own kind for the very first time.
There. Is that your little son? He's a handsome boy like you, isn't he?